need young people to play, a vital role in just to bring about those ideas of how we can make it better. Like I said, there's climate change which needs our voices and our role to play, just to see how we can make sure that we come 2030, as some of our RRP plans signify that we need to do something then.
I see that as a huge challenge, but I also see it as an opportunity, because there's now pathways being opened for the younger generation. And I mean, in terms of science, also for women, because of things like employment equity.
I think the biggest step as a young person is, being inquisitive, wanting to know and wanting to expose yourself to, a lot of things. As they say, the world is your oyster.
Everyone comes together because at the greater length, we do require all different roles and all different viewpoints to push forward what is coming and what the current situation we face now.
When you do that work in discovering who and what you are, there's no right or wrong to it, then it just becomes easier.
Hi there, my name is Wandile Njingila.
I'm Nolukanyo Mpisani.
From climate action to clean tech, we are bringing the next generation of leaders into the spotlight,
where young voices light up the future. This is Youth in Energy Conversations. Let's spark the conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Youth in Energy Conversations first ever webinar. I am Nolukanyo Mpisane and I will be your host for today together with Mohale. We really hope that today's webinar is insightful and that each and every one of you can take away something from this webinar. A special thank you to our partners, Senea and Soweya. Thank you so much for collaborating with us and helping us make this webinar possible.
My name is Wandile Njingela and I serve as the Youth Engagement Coordinator for Energy Conversation as a whole, as well as the co-host of Youth in Energy Conversations. Ideally, Energy Conversations is South Africa's premier platform as part of the youth segment. Now, we have collaborated with Sanea and Sawia for the purpose of this webinar to equip young professionals and students with practical insights, guidance, and tools to effectively navigate the energy sector. This session aims to foster meaningful dialogue, inspire career growth, and connect participants with opportunities across the energy value chain. Thank you.
Good evening to everyone that is joining us. My name is Morongwa Ramaboa, and I'm the Chief Communications Officer at the South African Wind Energy Association. Again, to the Energy Conversation podcast team, thank you for inviting Sawia to this important discussion. And true to your mission, you're empowering South Africans to actively participate in the country's transition to a low-carbon economy. And with wind at the center of that low-carbon economy, it's also a real pleasure to see an all-woman panel guiding today's dialogue. And with the youth also taking initiative in leading today's program as well, especially as we step into Women's Month and prepare to mark International Youth Day next week on the 12th of August. Sawia is the voice of the wind industry in South Africa, and we bring together industry, government, and civil society to advance a just and inclusive energy transition, with wind energy at the center of that transition. And youth are a critical part of this journey. South Africa has over 21 million young people and making up more than a third of our population. As an industry, we must create pathways for their inclusion, and not just as beneficiaries, but as leaders. At Sawia, this commitment shows through initiatives like our Wind Internship Program, which Wandile is a product of, and she was working closely with Tiama on it, both being products of the Wind Industry Internship Program, which we launched in 2022. This is just one of the initiatives that we pride ourselves with, where we highlight the impact that we can have as far as the youth is concerned. And this internship program, in just 3 years, we've impacted over 120 young professionals, and it's with the support of EWCTA. and it provides practical entry points into the renewable energy ecosystem. And this year alone, we received over 400 applications. And this is proof of the hunger for opportunity and the urgency of addressing youth unemployment in our country. But we can't do it alone as an association. And that's why collaboration is essential. And being part of today's conversation, alongside institutions like SANEA, it's strategic for us and very important for us to continue on the collaboration pathway. It allows us to amplify youth voices. It allows us to bridge policy with action and build collective momentum for an inclusive energy future. And to the young people listening today, no cap. You are not just the future, you are the now. The energy transition needs your ideas, your energy, and your leadership. Whether you're an engineer, a creative, a community builder, or an entrepreneur, there's certainly space for you in the sector. And as we build towards a cleaner and inclusive energy future for our country, we want you to walk beside us, shaping that path. So keep showing up, keep asking questions, and keep taking up space. Thank you once again, and looking forward to the ideas and inspirations that will come from today's discussions.
Thank you, Nolukanyo. Yes, so welcome everyone. I'm super excited to be here. So mine is just to introduce the South African National Energy Association. So my name is Mohale Modisane. I'm a member of the board of directors at SANEA, which is the South African National Energy Association. And I'm also the chairperson for the South African National Energy Association Youth in Energy. And before I even start, membership to the South African National Energy Association's Youth in Energy is free. So if you're a young person interested in the space and you're not quite sure, which particular sector you want to be a part of yet, join us as we journey and as we navigate. I would definitely like to, appreciate the opportunity that we have been given to partner with organizations such as SAWIA, and also Energy Conversations in such a critical discussion. So a little bit about SANEA. So we are a nonprofit organization that was founded in 1924, or over 100 years old. And we represent a hub of objective thought leadership on energy-related matters. And our view and our stance is to stimulate, original thought and catalyze transformation in the energy sector. And we need the voices of young people to come through as future custodians of, the energy sector that we will be building in the future. So I am very happy to be here. Very happy to spend the evening with you as we share ideas. Looking forward to the engagements with the panelists. And, if there's anything that I can say, you're in the right place. Continue to ask questions, as Moroma said. Continue to be engaged. And there's definitely a space for you in the energy sector. You don't have to be an engineer, as you'll see. There's many avenues, whether you're in finance, whether you're in legal, even in people in the humanities field, are part of the energy sector. We need everybody's views and thoughts to move the needle forward. So so that's just my 2 cents about SANEA and our organization. So I have the privilege of introducing our esteemed guests today. So I will start off with Shela. So Shela, if you can put your camera on, please, and just wave and say hello to our guests. So Shela Sekhasembe is a reliability engineer at Koeberg Nuclear Power Station. She's focusing on performance and maintenance of nuclear systems. She also holds a BSc in mechanical and mechatronics engineering, and she's committed to operational excellence at the nuclear plant. So Shela, maybe if you could just give us, just in a very 30 seconds to a minute, your career projection and how did you end up in what you're doing.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to SAWIA actually for having this conversation. It's quite a pivotal one, especially for youth, as it has already been said. So my name is Shela, as already introduced. So I started off as a little girl who's very passionate in STEM subjects. I went to a technical high school. From there, I then continued to go study BSc Mechanical and Mechatronics Engineering at UCT. Whilst there, I then stumbled upon the energy fraternity through ESCOM. I was awarded a bursary. So through then, I then obviously ended up at Koeberg Nuclear Power Station in a nutshell. But yeah, passionate about nuclear right now, passionate about demystifying the use of nuclear energy within, our country and Africa at large. But yeah, also passionate about the conversations that we'll have here to try and inspire, the youth to belong to this wonderful industry. Thank you, Mohale.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shela. So yes, participants, please feel free to encourage our speakers. There's a small heart on the bottom. If you have it, please react. Let's be engaged. And also please share your questions in the chat as well. So thank you for that, Shela. Cecilia, I will then move on to you next. So Cecilia Bassog, she's a BSc graduate with experience in automotive quality management. She's passionate about upskilling, training, and applying quality systems to advance careers in STEM and manufacturing. Cecilia, would you like to give us just a 30 seconds to a minute, view of your career journey and what sparked your interest in what you're doing?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Mohale, for the introduction. Hope you're all well this evening. So my name is Cecilia. And as mentioned, I am a BSc graduate, but how it started was that, as mentioned, just a love of STEM. So my, journey started unconventionally. I came to UP for mathematical science. Then I moved to biological, more so your genetics. And then I integrated that with biochemistry. So that in itself exposed me much to, my love and my affection for your, more STEM subjects. And then at the end of my, degree, I had a whole question, I was thinking, okay, what should I do next? Where should I go next? And therefore I was, provided an opportunity to work in the quality industry, in the automotive sector. And that's how my whole journey started. And that's where I truly feel like I find my purpose. So in the midst of that, I was working at one of the suppliers for one of the car manufacturers. And, we were working on the quality side. We were busy there. And one day, the company had a meeting and they said, looking forward, where are we going to go? And the big thing was electric vehicles. So me being me, I said, let me just try this. I believe that I can understand the sector. I have the feeling and the confidence. So that's where I went and I did research. I did some training as an auto electrician for 3 weeks. And, that in itself just pushed me further and further into finding out more about your new energy vehicles, more about training.
Thank you so much for that, Cecilia. I'm looking forward to engaging, learning a lot more around electric vehicles and the automotive sector, particularly as it pertains to energy. So thank you for that. Next up, I will then move on to Linina. So Linina is a senior analyst at NEXA, specializing in neutronics and radiation safety analysis. With over 9 years of computational modeling experience, she holds degrees in physics and energy leadership. Linina, in about 30 seconds to a minute, could you just give us a little bit about your career path and what drove you into the nuclear field?
Thank you, Mohale, and thank you for having me on this panel this evening. So my name is Linina, and I am, as Mohale said, a senior nuclear safety analyst at the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation. So my journey actually started off in medicine, and I spent 2 years doing that and realized I miss numbers. I miss physics. real physics, University, changing paths into physics. I then joined a program called BSc Nuclear Science and Engineering. The reason why I joined this program was because I was interested in medicine. So I actually looked for a path where some of the medical physics can be brought in and I could kind of merge the both. So I called them up and they said, yeah, sure, you can come during the December holidays. And then I found myself at NEXA every holiday doing vacation work. And I ended up doing my honors project there, my master's project, and then I was appointed, and here we are.
No, that's really incredible. And I like the fact that you said that you started off doing something completely different, and yeah, along the way you really missed numbers. So that's very interesting, but we'll touch on that a bit later as we carry on with our discussion. Thanks for that, Linina. And then our last panelist. So as you can tell, we have an all-female panelist for Women's Month. So that's fantastic. So Bianca Michaeline Jordan is our last panelist. She's a social impact standing committee member representing SAWIA, focusing on environmental, social, and governance issues in renewable energy across South Africa. Bianca, welcome. In about a minute or 30 seconds to a minute, could you give us a view of, how did you get involved in the energy sector and what drove you to where you are today?
I must just say, I call myself Queen Bee because I'm a self-appointed queen. So just for control, so there's no more Bianca the rest of the session, please. So yes, Women's Month, been vibing, authenticity, owning your space, but we'll get into that later. So I have, my story is wow. I started off working in community development. I studied economics, then I studied politics, and then I wanted to be a politician, but I was in no political party, and nobody tells you that. So I had a whole BA politics, slayed it, and then I'm like, wow, what now? And I'm like, yeah, I've got an economics major, went into economics, loved economic development, and then boom, renewable energy just happened. And I'm like, I'm loud, I can talk in communities, I like economics, the two must just gel somehow. And then what did renewable energy need? Economic development. So yeah, that is in the short 30 seconds to a minute, and part of SAWIA's social impact committee, where economic development links with social impact to make sure we've got some good impact in our communities.
Thank you for that, Queen Bee. Yes, I will definitely address you as Queen Bee for the rest of the session. So we've got a broad range of expertise, as you can see. We have people in the nuclear space, people who are interested in the automotive industry. We had, people that changed careers, started off in medicine. Some wanted to be politicians. And now we're going to dive a bit deeper into, discussion points around particularly our topic. And Nolukanyo is going to take us forward, kicking off the discussion points with our panelists. So Nolukanyo, please take it away for us.
Shela, I want to bring you in. How would you describe the energy ecosystem today?
One for obviously the wrong reasons. You might think load shedding, but also for the right reasons, climate change. So it's quite a big one. It's quite a vast one, which, consists of a number of players in it. You have your wind, your renewables, you have your nuclear. You have your solar, part of the renewables, your petroleum. It's quite vast, it's quite big. I'm still learning all of it. But for me, the ecosystem there, I think it's one where we need young people to play, a vital role in, just to bring about those ideas of how we can make it better. Like I said, there's climate change which needs our voices and our role to play, just to see how we can make sure that we come 2030, as some of our RRP plans signify that we need to do something then. But also as young people, just to grow, for me, the nuclear sector. As you might know, we only have one operational nuclear power plant in, all of Africa, being Koeberg, where I'm situated. So growing that, getting new builds, for me, that's what I'm passionate about, and also just demystifying the use of, peaceful nuclear within our communities. So we do a lot of awareness around nuclear, and just educating, our surrounding communities and young people at large, just to say, there's peaceful use of nuclear energy for medicine, as Linina has already said, for electricity as we, do it, and for many other uses. So the energy ecosystem is quite huge. This is a big question, but for me, yeah, just touching on that, I think nuclear is my passion for now, but yeah, quite aware of everything else that's happening.
I want to bring in Queen B. I know that you interact with the energy ecosystem from a different lens, and so I want to know, what is your view of the energy ecosystem today?
The energy ecosystem is people, because without people, there would be no ecosystem. And specifically for me, it is at this point the young people. So I fall under in the renewable space, so wind and solar. And there's so much in that ecosystem. Everyone thinks it's technical, that, you can only come in from a technical perspective, but there's so many different options in that ecosystem. You need environmentalists, you need people to manage people. So the ecosystem is made up of so many different components. It's made up of communities, because the land that projects are built on is sometimes communities' land. It's people's lives. You'll be building a solar wind farm, right opposite sometimes people's homes. Sometimes people need to be relocated. So that ecosystem, from my different perspective, is the people.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I want to bring Cecilia into the conversation. Cecilia, what would you say the energy ecosystem is like from your lens, and what would you say is the role of the youth in the just energy transition?
From my perspective, I think that the ecosystem, it's still yet to really blossom and bloom. I think it's primarily because of just knowledge. So I think that as young people, we are not as knowledgeable about currently what is happening and currently what is coming, And I think that that leaves a lot of room to grow, as an industry. And also the importance to see, as previous speakers have said, you've got many sectors. You know, without energy, you can't have mobility. Without ensuring that humans themselves are okay and equipped enough, you can't push any of these industries. So it's important that everyone comes together, because at the greater length, we do require all different roles and all different viewpoints to push forward what is coming and what the current situation we face now. So I think it's very promising. I believe that if we each really push and just speak to young people, even our siblings, and just really inform them and tell them that they do have a role. They can do something. They are equipped to do something. And you don't have to go into a directly STEM industry. You just have to be asking questions, questions like, how can we fix, our energy crisis? And you start to see, what skills do I have that can assist in this? So I think that is my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. I think you're right. It really does start with curiosity. It doesn't stop when you have load shedding, and that's the only time you're wondering what is happening. Linina, I want to bring you into the mix. You have been in the energy industry for some time, and I think you would have been able to see the different changes and the different trends. What would you say, what are the current trends or changes that young people need to know about?
The current trends that I see is a huge knowledge gap between the older generation, lots of the experts that are retiring or have retired, and the people, that the youth of today that are coming in. and that knowledge transfer that is no longer there. So for me, I see that as a huge challenge, but I also see it as an opportunity because there's now pathways being opened for the younger generation. And I mean, in terms of science, also for women, because of things like employment equity. So, so I think what I'm seeing right now is young people desperate for knowledge, desperate to learn, and also eager to solve issues. For example, I know my other panel members mentioned load shedding and load shedding and all the different types of energy that exist. But I think one that's also really important is energy security and energy access, because in Africa, not just South Africa, energy access is a huge problem. So yes, load shedding sucks for those of us that have electricity, but what about those that don't even have grid infrastructure? So we have to look at how do we actually, we can't move away from coal entirely overnight. So we have to look at, in terms of a just energy transition, how do we balance that act? How do the youth play a role? Because a lot of the older people have older ideas, no offense, but I see it where I work as well. When it comes to technology, when it comes to accepting AI, for example, we need to come in, we need to teach them. And like Cecilia said, knowledge, share the knowledge with people, teach our older generation as well, not just the younger generation. Because once that knowledge is learned, then we can all move forward and, be closer towards a better country and a better continent in terms of energy access, energy security, and technology. We can really be at the forefront of something great if we focus on those things.
The energy sector is very dynamic. It is fast evolving as well. And it is up to us to be curious so that we can learn more and really go deeper and tap in and be more involved in South Africa's energy revolution. I will now hand over to Mohale.
Thank you so much, Nolukanyo, and panelists, very, very interesting insights. But mine now is to go a little bit deeper. I mean, let's shift a little bit into your personal journeys, because I think there's many people in the call who can relate with the things you've said. So let's touch a little bit more on that. Each of you represent different niches. I mean, we've heard of nuclear, we've heard of, interest in electric vehicles, we've heard of AI, big data, we've heard about safety, the importance of people, new build projects. But maybe, Shela, I'll come to you. How did you find your niche? Because, I mean, as you said, Koeberg is the only nuclear plant, I think, operational across the African continent. That's something that's very particular. How did you find your niche? And maybe can you give us some information on someone who's interested in that space? What are the things that they need to do to be able to build a strong foundation to be successful within your industry?
So finding my niche, I think my niche found me rather. There wasn't any other way that I wouldn't have been in nuclear if you think about it. But I think for me, passion was always engineering, solution based. So as a young girl, my dad was a qualified mechanic. So I worked a bit with him on cars every other weekend or so. But I wanted, to do much more than what he was doing. So then I researched a bit and found out there was something called engineering, mechanical engineering. But that wasn't going to be enough for me because, AI wasn't the biggest chat then, but I think instrumentation, robotics was a thing then. And I was like, okay, if I can understand the mechanical components, they are now powered through other things, through your control units and so forth. So I then went into mechanical and mechatronics. That's how I chose that. And through that, there's endless opportunities. I think the biggest step as a young person is, being inquisitive, wanting to know and wanting to expose yourself to, a lot of things. As they say, the world is your oyster. But through that, through being inquisitive, through wanting to know, I moved all the way from Polokwane, born and bred, and I came to study at Cape Town, at UCT. So taking the leap of faith and saying, I'm just going to go out and find opportunities. I then stumbled across what now is my niche, as some may call it that. But my friends and I, while studying engineering, we always said, it chose us and we didn't choose it, because what else could we have studied? But that speaks to the passion for engineering as a whole, and obviously everything else that comes around with it. So then ending up in nuclear, the same perspective goes on to say, okay, the first time I actually heard of nuclear was when I was approached by Eskom to actually say, hey, we want you, would you come work for us? And for me, that was wrong. I said, it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that young people only hear about nuclear when, it's in that late hour like I did. So such conversations then I appreciate entirely, because I would have, highly benefited from it. So hence I love to form part of it. But then coming into nuclear and realizing there's only one nuclear power station in the whole of the African continent. And that just speaks to the opportunities that still exist within the African continent for us to expand something like nuclear to other countries. We've also spoken about energy security, to say that now says there's a big gap elsewhere where we need young people to close the skills gap, get the knowledge, and take it elsewhere. So it's such things where the niche just grows bigger and bigger and bigger. And through doing that, you want to understand the energy fraternity in its entirety, because it can't just be nuclear, it can't just be coal, it can't just be renewables, but you need to understand what location needs what's best. So now you continue to probe into, such questions. So a niche grows, and you need to allow it to grow by being inquisitive and just, fully immersing yourself into the opportunities around you as a young person.
No, thank you for that, Shela. Those are very interesting insights, and I'm picking up a thread around curiosity and inquisitiveness. But sometimes as one, you're like, where do I even start to be curious and inquisitive about certain things? So maybe Bianca, I would like to bring you in here, because you mentioned something that was quite interesting in the fact that your niche was the political science or political field. You want to become a politician, and then you changed, and you're very interested in people. So what advice would you give to someone who doesn't know where they fit in yet, but they're quite interested within the space?
I've got a completely different approach to it. Find out who you are as a person. And that's how I found my niche. I thought I wanted to be in politics, so I thought it was my niche because it just looked cool. It looked cool, speaking in parliament, going to the UN, just being there. But then I realized it's not actually my niche. My niche is developing communities and having social impact for big companies. Initially, I started off in mining and then into renewable energy. So my niche is a part of who and what I am. So I am my niche. And when you do that work in discovering who and what you are, there's no right or wrong to it, then it just becomes easier. So, for example, me sitting in this webinar with pigtails is who I am, and I'm unapologetic about it. Me being able to say I'm a whole queen, I'm unapologetic about it. That is my niche. And it is a different approach, and sometimes it doesn't always work, but because I'm so strongly grounded in who and what I am, the work comes easier. And working with people just comes easier. Having an impact on communities just comes easier.
No, awesome. Thank you for that. That's really, really cool. And I like the approach of your niche should kind of go with who you are. Don't try to fit into a box. And that speaks to the fact that, the energy sector is so broad that there is room for everyone. So thank you so much for that, Bianca. Cecilia, I will come to you next, and I'll ask the same question around, how did you find your niche? Because it seems that you're very interested in vehicles and the energy sector from that perspective, particularly thinking about EVs. But in our country, we have electricity challenges, and now we're trying to look at charging electric vehicles. There aren't that many on the roads. So as you're answering the question around how you found your niche, could you also then maybe speak a little bit about how could someone gain the necessary experience, as they're kind of trying to establish themselves within the spaces?
So, I grew up and in a very STEM dominated household. So throughout my whole schooling career, it was much more maths. And then me being just I'm not going to follow, I actually took a fine arts subject. And in my heart of hearts, I was like, I am going to be a fine artist. Like, no one will stop me. And, I really can't say where I am is not without the support, whether it be my family, my friends, and, my teachers, lecturers, because, my father was like, you need to just do maths, go into maths, do your art afterwards. And, begrudgingly, I went into STEM. I really went into STEM. Tough as it was, I completed my, degree at UP. And at the end, I even applied for fine arts. I said, I'm going to do this. And then, my dad took me down and he said, you know what, just come see in quality, come get a bit of understanding of what this is. And I said, you know what, okay, let me just go do it for now so that I can just get money to fund my fine arts career. And I think that is where I really connected with my purpose because, when I was on site, when I was with the team that I was with, coming day to day with people, and these are people who, really face such severe challenges that one wouldn't think that they still, persevere and push. And for that made me really ignite this thing that if you give people opportunity, if you empower them through knowledge, through the premise that they are able to learn and do something, even if they feel it's insignificant, it plays such a big role because quality asks the question, what does the customer want? And people sometimes think that just checking something and just saying, okay, it's minor work. But sincerely, you monitor that, you check that, you understand through the whole link, you get to know the process of the production. So, that's how it pushed me into the electric vehicle space because, again, the proposal was moving forward, what do we see? And when we were provided the opportunity to start learning into the electric vehicle space, I poured myself in it, primarily because I told myself that you can't be limited based on your background. You have to persevere, you have to push, even if it's something totally different. At that point, I only knew quality. I didn't know manufacturing or electric vehicle space, but I spent majority, almost a year learning about your electric vehicles. And to answer your question, it's been quite challenging because, I think people get upset when you talk about electric vehicle. They want to pump in more petrol to show you that they are not doing electric vehicles. But we forget that majority of people don't have transport. Majority of people don't have energy. And to answer your question about how will we power electric vehicle, we are in South Africa. We are in Africa. We are a resource-rich nation. It doesn't take one to build or to create, a solar charging, charging station or using wind to kind of fuel that. So it just takes us opening young people to this type of new energy space so that they can think of ideas and they can create something that will propel us into solving the energy crisis and solving the mobility crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Cecilia. Yeah, and just from everyone's points, I get this understanding that our journeys are unique. They're very personal, but all of them are valid, and all of them, can operate within the energy sector, and there's no one size fits all. And this idea of a niche can change, can transform as you're curious and inquisitive and finding out more information. So thank you so much for that. Um, and then now go to Lenina. And Lenina, same question. As we dive into kind of your personal journey of how did you find your niche and how did you establish. But to you, I'd also just want to touch on a little bit about what are the challenges, of being in such a specialized field, and how do you how would you advise people to, have broad enough skill sets, but also be very, very good at what they do? How can we not almost run ourselves into a corner, so to say, in such a dynamic and changing space?
I don't think I found my niche. I think I kind of built it because, being in the nuclear space, there's, like Shela said, there's one nuclear power plant in Africa, and lots of people haven't heard of the Nuclear Energy Corporation as well. So there's not much in terms of knowing what's out there. So I love numbers and I love nature, and I love to see how we can use numbers to describe nature. And for me, physics is that art. So that's why I chose to go into physics. And then while I was studying, there were various streams that you could go into. And at that time, the Square Kilometer Array project was starting up, and CERN is always attractive because there's lots of travel involved, and as a young person you want to see opportunities like that. And then everyone tells you that nuclear is a dead field and things like that. So I think you have to really be true to yourself. You have to kind of find out what you really enjoy doing and what you will love doing for the rest of your life, without getting bored and without feeling like, did I make the right decision? So I think a lot of youth right now, especially when you're in university, you're influenced by so many factors. One of the huge one is obviously, will I be able to make a living with this career? And, I come from a family where my mom and I would fight all the time because she would say, what are you going to do with a physics degree? You can't get a job. Maybe you should do commerce or something like that. But I stayed true to myself and I continued with physics. And then I also enjoyed engineering. So I kind of found a space where I could merge both. I really didn't like theoretical physics. I liked applied physics. So throughout my journey, I always made sure that whatever I was doing, whether it was vacation work or whether it was joining a learnership or studying towards a new course, I would always make sure that it aligned with some kind of application and some kind of helping people in a way. Because, I'm the kind of person that likes to help others. So I saw it as, okay, I can merge my passions and I can merge some of my values and find this sweet spot. I mean, it's not always great. There are trade-offs some of the time. But yeah, I think it's really about where you want to be and who you are as a person. And then you tailor your path and you can actually build your own sort of niche. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Lina. And yeah, it's so beautiful to see how different all of your guys' paths are, but how many similarities there are in, how you've kind of, worked your way in the energy sector. And for me, the big thing is just the curiosity, being true to yourself, knowing what you want, and also, not being afraid to deviate, to change, to completely turn the table and start something new. So for me, that's amazing. But we're going to go into the next segment, and Nolukanyo's going to take us there. And as we all say, you can't go alone. There's a famous saying that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And Nolukanyo will take us through just the concept and the idea of, as a young person growing and developing within this energy sector, how do things like mentorship and networking and the challenges associated with that guide our career progression and our different paths that we take.
Young professional has been an advantage. It's also a disadvantage because you're open to a lot, but you can't necessarily do it all. You can't be a jack of all trades, master of none. At some point, you need to come down and actually focus yourself onto something that speaks more to you and which will benefit you in the space that you're in. So in terms of mentorship, also being in a very male-dominated industry, finding somebody that you think you can connect based with has been a challenge. However, with Koeberg being as big and wide as it is, I was able to find a mentor to help me with that. So having a mentor now helped me focus my interest into just instrumentation rather than mechanical, discipline. So using that, I'm now driving myself forward in the sense that I'm looking at, studying further and making sure that I'm still relevant within the energy industry, but doing it in a way that I know will benefit where I am right now, but also not losing focus on, what I can do going forward. In as much as you get to be quite inquisitive, you need to at some point channel yourself to something specific so that you can get stuff done. You can't do it all always. So I think that for me has been the two challenges, but yeah, navigating it by having a mentor who, has helped me say, oh, you still have a lot of time to do everything that you need to do. For now, channel yourself to what speaks to you and what will get you to where you want to be. So be goal orientated in terms of having that 5-year plan, that 10-year plan, but also not being totally immersed in where I'm at right now, because I started off by saying load shedding. If you mention ESCOM, you're a young professional, you're like, your mates are like, where do you work? What are you doing? You're like, you're at ESCOM. They're like, what are you doing there? Do you even work? So, but seeing past the negatives of whatever space you may be in, and setting yourself up to say, I want to be, proud of what I do and where I work, and making sure that you thrive and you work towards that. So I've just wanted to change the narrative for myself. At a BRI, I want to, purposefully say I'm in the energy sector, and to say this is how I'm making an impact. So those have been some of the challenges, but yeah, just having a positive mindset towards everything and working hard. You decide everything for yourself and not the things or the people around you. Yeah, thank you, Nolukanyo.
Has anything like mentorship or networking helped you in navigating your career?
100%. The mentorship part is quite big because you need to aspire to something. You need to aspire to wanting to do better. But through networking as well, you see how much more young professionals are doing out there. And, they're not just only aspiring to things within their industry, or rather within their organization, but to say, I can actually aspire to things which are far much greater on a global scale. Nuclear has also exposed me to quite a number of global networking sessions, because obviously being the only station in Africa, we then partner a lot with the rest of the world globally. So I've been exposed to a number of young professionals then, and I get to see so much more that they do through, a webinar such as the one that we have this evening, and I get to hear about, what Cecilia is doing, what Bianca's doing. And I go back at home now today, just because I'm sitting as part of the panelists doesn't mean I've made it, but it means I now get to be in spaces where I get to grow even more. I get to go sit down and research more about what I heard here today. And that's just how, that being in the energy industry grows you, and networking forms a pivotal role in advancing somebody in their career. So yeah, I think that's how networking has impacted me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sheila. Thank you. Queen B, I would like to bring you into this conversation. What challenges have you faced in your journey, particularly after finding out that actually I don't belong to a political party? What next, what challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them? And has mentorship been one of the tools you've used in navigating your career in the energy sector?
Sure, the challenges, I think we need a whole webinar just for those challenges. But I'm just touching on a few. Being a young person is so hard because we grew up in a different generation from our parents. So for example, with myself, my mom and dad always taught me there's this Afrikaans word called vasbyt, which means you just dig deep, you continue. And I'm like, no, I don't want to dig deep and continue. I want to change the narrative. So that's where mentorship comes in. That's where networking comes in. So I actively also have to get up, say, I need a mentor, look in the industry for people around me, look at simple things, LinkedIn. I would look at, oh, I see there's a group doing this. Let me ask somebody to do my mentor, be my mentor. And mentoring has really helped me just to give a different sense of reasoning, a different sounding board. Sometimes we are so reactive as young people also. We innovative, we passionate, but we also sometimes so reactive, and there's a lot of wisdom we can get from mentors. But really networking has also really, really has helped me. And whether that networking is in the industry, such as with Subia, there's even WhatsApp groups where you just talk, you just share. There's other platforms. There's another one called Inspire, for example, and we even talk about mental health. About how we want to be better versions of ourselves and we want to give, but our cups are not even full. So yeah, challenges, sure. That's a whole webinar, but mentorship does have a really strong role to play in that, but you got to get up and find that mentor for yourself. Nobody's going to find him or her for you.
Thank you for that. I share the same sentiment in finding a mentor doesn't have to be someone who maybe you work with. LinkedIn has made it so easy for all of us to be able to find the people who are doing the things that we want to do or are interested in. And you never know where mentorship could take you. Cecilia, I want to bring you into this conversation. What challenges have you faced, and has mentorship been a tool that you've used to navigate your career in the energy sector?
The challenges that I face, and I think it's really with the panelist, is that you're young and that you are a woman. I think that especially going into your particularly just male-dominated field and not having that, background that they would presume, it does give a roadblock, but that has never stopped or should ever stop anyone. Because again, as has been mentioned throughout, you need to be true to yourself. You need to have a purpose. You need to really have an overall purpose as to why you're doing something, and you need to follow it through. Because again, people's perception are just people's perception. But if you are really doing something, and if you're really for the purpose and the good of people around you, people who are not even around you, but then your actions can affect them, it's really important not to look at challenges and limitations as something that can deter you. So yes, I have, even working in the quality side, more so quality side, I would have to say, because you are in the thick of things. You are, when parts are being produced to make a car and it's just in time. So you have to ensure that, whatever, process goes on, that part is the correct part. And as mentioned, you have to be true to yourself. You have to stand firm in your ethical beliefs. You have to know that you are here for a purpose and a reason, and also your position and where people that have helped you. It's not an island. You've had support. Therefore, it's important to also dispense that support on other people as well. So just to go on to the mentorship and support systems, yes, I think throughout my schooling career, I would really look at the older generation as a link to knowledge and support. You need to look at older generation who are wanting to help, who do really care, just to impart, wisdom. You need to be with them. You need to really just learn from them. Furthermore, you also need to do the same with younger people. So, in my quality side, I really was around your engineers, around your quality team, your managers, or people who work in those types of departments, and I would really ask questions. You have to ask questions. You're there to learn and you're there to get support. And now being in this position of this new sector, and seeing the need for young people just to get information and knowledge about your electric vehicles, about it being important in answering many questions, I myself now I'm thinking, okay, how can I provide mentorship and support in my position to younger people? So that's also where I'm leaning towards. So yes, it's been a very fruitful venture. It's been challenging, but again, I will just reiterate, if you know your purpose, if you know who you are, you stand firm. And it's quite important to also be with people who also align, because it's not just one person that's going to make an impact. It's multiple people from different sectors.
Thank you, Cecilia. Lenina, I want to know what has kept you going, and what challenges have you faced? Have you sought mentorship?
I think mentorship is very important, like the other ladies mentioned, but I also have to emphasize that in my journey, mentorship changes. So when I first started, I started off in my early 20s, straight out of university, young, eager to learn, greedy for knowledge. So my mentor was more centered around gaining the technical acumen and technical knowledge. So in the beginning, I was eager to, understand how things work and polish my skills and take what I've learned at university and put it into good use. So I would write lots of academic papers. I would present at conferences, like in my field, there's the South African Institute of Physics that has a conference every year. So I would write a paper and present there and broaden my network. And then as I got older and as I became more senior, my whole outlook shifted a bit, because now I felt like I was losing myself in all this technical work. And I had to go back and ask myself, but what do I really want? And for me, the biggest challenge in the beginning was also imposter syndrome, because you're a young female, you get to a place, male dominated, even at university, it was male dominated in my classes. And you ask yourself, am I good enough to be here? Am I doing the right thing? Should I be presenting at these conferences? Are people taking me seriously? There's always that doubt, but you kind of have to motivate yourself and push yourself. And I think a huge motivating factor is when you have people interact with you. So I would, like you mentioned, LinkedIn. I would get messages on LinkedIn after presenting. And students from the university, I would volunteer to have honor students, for example. And then I created that network. And I became a mentor as well. I was now supervising students. And then my mentor shifted from being someone who was training me to be this technical expert to someone that was more holistic in their role. And I found that, I want more than this. And that's when I explored the path of doing this Master of Management degree at Wits Business School. And it just showed me that there was so much more, to the energy sector than just the technical space. And I actually found a really nice mentor in that space, a female one. And she's showing me how to navigate, without losing yourself in the process, because it can become quite a daunting process. You are young, you're ambitious, and then, as women, you reach a point in life where I now have kids. I have two little ones, and I want to know how to balance it. And I can't do all the traveling and presenting anymore. So how do I still, shine in my field? How do I contribute in my field, be a person of value? And at the same time, how do I not lose myself in that? So I think mentorship is very important, and your mentor will constantly change as you progress throughout your journey.
Thank you for that, Linina. And I think it's important to also highlight that you don't have to have one mentor. The same way that a company has a board of directors, you could have a board of mentors as well, because each person contributes to different segments of your life. And you can have conscious and unconscious mentors. There are people around you who are always motivating you and who are your cheerleaders. Those would probably be your unconscious mentors. And then your conscious mentors would be the ones that you go out and seek for yourself. I want to go into the questions that are in the chat box. We have a question from Zadan Miller. I hope I said your name and her name correctly. I think this question is to Cecilia. The question is, in densely populated areas, how can renewable energy be effectively used to charge EV? And what arguments would one use to encourage people to switch to EVs?
So in densely populated areas, one can use solar. I think that is the most accessible renewable energy that we have right now in your most densely populated areas. I think one big question we have now is what happens during winter time? What happens during, when there's rain or something like that? How do we store that energy in an efficient way that we can still use renewable energies in times of this? So I think that is why it's so vital. So what, my organization and company is trying to do is we are trying to get the knowledge out there, because we cannot answer all the questions, and nor are we trying to answer all the questions, but we're trying to really say that it is possible. I think introduction wise, you really can have solar charging stations in your cities or areas with lots of people. And also one thing is just the cost of living. I mean, we don't have really just a stable type of fuel. Every month to month base it changes. And also many people don't really live in the city, many people travel. So you've got all these factors that play a role in ownership of your vehicle, that you would want to look at something that can lower the cost overall, but also health-wise. I think the issue with having older cars is that they emit your gases, and we can see it. You can go day to day and find an old car just pumping out a lot of fuel or fumes, and you see in mostly densely populated areas the increase in asthma. So, just that type of conscious step to say, okay, you know what, for an economic standpoint, yes, it is in a large initial investment to get an electric vehicle, but many car manufacturers are answering that question by bringing in entry-level types of electric vehicles. So you've got that covered. The next issue is how to charge it. Your charging actually can be charged by your normal plugs that you find in your garage at home. So you've got that solution. So I think that's, little by little and just properly just, researching and seeing how you can really effectively, get onto the cleaner type of mobility, it can help. But we are not trying to, remove all combustion thing, because variety is the spice of life. But we also realize that many people sincerely face real realities, such as, high cost of fuel, just the efficiency of your combustion engine. So it's quite important to really just think of factors, or think of different modes of transport, and how you can just lower your emission in general, and also just be effective on your pockets. So I think that can just answer your question.
Thank you for that, Cecilia. The next question is from Tato. Tato's question is, what advice would you give someone who is struggling to find an entry-level job? I have completed my studies in energy studies and environmental management postgraduate level. Any one of the panel members are free to answer this question.
I see a lot of this at Nexa, and I get a lot of messages like this on LinkedIn asking me if there's vacancies and things like that. So I think the best way to answer this would be that firstly, it is tough. The government keeps saying we need to upskill the youth, we need to have more young people in the sectors, in the energy sector. But reality is that I know many people that have qualified and are still struggling to find a job. So what I would suggest is, I'm not sure like if your background would be relevant, but there are channels. Like I know at Nexa, we have the Nexa Learning Academy, where you can apply for like some courses, some training courses. You can apply for apprenticeships. And once you are in the system, once you've been trained by a professional body, you have some sort of certification, then it makes it easier when jobs are advertised for you to get in. So it's always good. I mean, as a graduate, it's difficult because you don't really have hands-on experience. But in order for you to get some sort of experience while you wait for something to come up, I think it's really valuable to join these programs that do exist and find out more about it. I'm sure ESCOM has them. Part of a company's budget is to offer this type of training. There's even Cheetah funding. That's how I ended up at Nexa. I was actually a student that was funded by Cheetah. And I did, like an internship before I was appointed. And once you have that skills, or once you have that on your CV, it makes it really so much more easier for you to get into the industry. So my advice would be is to whatever training parts are available, to grab it and connect with people on LinkedIn, email companies, do everything you can, exhaust all your options and get that experience in.
Thank you for that, Linina. This next question, I think, is for someone who is an introvert. I don't know if any of our panel members are introverts. This could be your question. The question is, what advice would you give to young people who is interested in the energy sector but prefers to work in roles that require minimal interaction with others?
Everyone I work with are introverts. I'm probably the most extroverted introvert in my group. So the best role to have would be a technical role where you would be involved in design, engineering design, and report writing. So you wouldn't have to deal with clients. Your manager deals with the clients. They come to you. It's kind of how it works with me as well. I don't really talk to people. I get my work request, I do my calculation, I write a report, and I send the report through. So the best space for that would be in a technical role, either a design engineer or some sort of science degree where you don't have to be in like interacting with people role.
Thank you, Linina. Our last question is from Sanele. He or she's question is about the type of industries that will play big roles in the future of the energy sector. Do you think coal will still be a relevant big player in improving this industry?
Yes, so just keep it brief. Definitely renewables. I have to speak about renewable. Was representing that sector. But the sector has moved and progressed so much as well. Before we just used to have what we call REAP projects, which was linked to the IPP, Independent Power Producer Office, and now there's CNI projects, which is commercial and industrial projects, which is for private off-takers, most commonly such as mines, for example. So, and now we even have battery energy storage as well. A few years ago, there would just be wind and solar, and now there's a whole other different type of technology as well. So, I definitely see renewables as growing a lot in the country. If we look at, and the industry only started in 2011, so it's not even 15 years old. So definitely the renewable sector, I see as being there.
Thank you, Queen Bee. Shela?
In essence, if you look at, your greener technologies, your greener energies, that's where the energy space is shifting to. So you want to align yourself with that. That's your renewables, that's your nuclear, that's your hydrogen gases. So you want to be centered around something that's a greener technology of, producing energy. And anyway, in there, particularly nuclear, I know, we've been approved as part of the IRP for a new build, so we will hopefully very soon start building another nuclear power plant in South Africa. That will need skills, that will need young people to bridge that gap between the skills that now exist and, young people that will run that power station that's coming up. So definitely center around greener technologies, greener energy. That's where, you should be, and the opportunities will be many.
I want to now hand over to Mohale to wrap this webinar up for us for final reflections and closing.
Thank you. And thanks for everyone that has still stayed online for us. Yeah, we apologize for just going slightly late, but we wanted to give everybody an opportunity to engage with the panelists and have their questions answered. But yeah, mine is just to close it off and to ask each of the panelists, a leading question before we end it off. And the question to each of the panelists is as follows. What's one piece of advice you'd give to a young person navigating their energy journey right now? Please keep it short, powerful, and sweet. Something that our guests can remember. Cecilia, I'll start with you.
Thank you so much. I'll try just to be short and brief, but there's many advice. But my advice to young people would be, you have the power to take action. So I think it's quite important that really when you like, just try, really just try. It's not easy in this economic environment. You may feel despondent, but keep on persevering, keep on pursuing. You'll meet someone, you come across us, and we would want to help and we'd want to assist. So just keep pushing. You have the power, even if it feels like nothing can be done. You really have the power, and just carry on persevering. So that's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And then Queen Bee, take it away for us, please.
Know you are, know your worth. It's okay to change. You wake up one day and you might feel that you're a politician and now you are a fixer. That's my new title for myself. Be bold. Literally, I want to do a shout out. I've got one of our interns from site who this afternoon, I was like, come watch me. And she's here. She's bold. Be bold. Shout out to you. You know you are.
Awesome. And then Shela, can you give us some words of wisdom, please?
Yeah, no, this one is, we probably all know it, but be the change you want to see. Like it's really going to start with us as young people. It's going to start with you. Whatever you want to see within the space that you're at, go for it. Start asking the questions, start doing it. And I think I heard a very, very big one recently. Somebody said, just because you've said it doesn't mean it's done. So actually go out and do something. If you want to do it, talk about it, but do it. So also last one, I think, which I live by, is making the most of the spaces that I occupy. Wherever you are, be the impactful change that you want to see, and just make the most of every opportunity that you have. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, Magali. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And then Linina.
Okay, so there's a piece of advice, or there's a line that I lived by my whole life. It comes from a poem by Robert Frost, and it says, "Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." So don't be afraid to choose your own path. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to be unique, and don't be afraid to be authentically you. It's your journey. Own it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. And yeah, we have come to the end of our webinar today. I'd just like to take this opportunity to appreciate each of the panelists. Can we please give them a huge round of applause? Emojis, spend them with love. Thank you so much, guys, for making the time, for agreeing to come and share your stories with us. Yeah, I mean, I know some of them are very personal, and I definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure that our listeners and people who are listening in, drew nuggets of wisdom that can definitely help them in their journeys as well. So thank you so much for that. I'd also like to thank our team. We had Tiamo and Wandile working in the back support. Thank you so much, Nuclear. You made it easy to be a co-host. And the team at Sawia, we interact quite a lot within the industry, but it's really, really cool to interact, particularly in our passion for young people. And definitely you guys, the guests, thank you for being such an amazing, guests. Thank you for posing questions, for listening in to us as we're trying to move the needle in this space. We truly apologize for just going slightly over, but yeah, the conversations were so great that we didn't want to stop without giving you guys a chance to engage. But this won't be the end. We do encourage that you stay in touch with Energy Combos, and stay in touch with Sania and Sawia. Go to our LinkedIn pages. There's WhatsApp groups. Just be in touch with the people on this this panel. I mean, I'm sure if you reach out to them on LinkedIn, we spoke about mentorship, things like that. They're open to engage further if there's any specific things that you're looking for. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much, and on 7:30 on the dot, we are done.
And just like that, that's a wrap on today's episode. But the energy doesn't stop here. Don't forget to follow, share, and leave a review.
Until next time, stay connected and keep it real. This is Youth in Energy Conversations.